Okay, another friend of Fluffy from Bedtime's Adventures. This one is called Bobby the Fish. Now, there was once a fish named Bobby, and he lived in a part of the ocean that was just beautiful. And Bobby had lots and lots of brothers and sisters. He could play all day with his brothers and sisters, and it was just fun. Well, one day, the mama and papa fish came out, and the papa fish said, "Children, gather around. I need to tell you something really, really important." And so all the children, they came together. They were kind of like in a school. And the father said to them, the papa fish said to them, "Now, children, we want you to know that in the part of the ocean that we live in, everything is very, very beautiful. But there is one thing we want to warn you about. There's a current. Now, a current is kind of like a river in the ocean." And he said, the current that we live by is very, very, very strong. And if a little fish, even a middle-sized fish, but if a little fish got too close to the current, it would just draw the little fish into the current, and it would sweep him away for miles and miles and miles and miles, and we would probably never ever see him again. And not only that, that part of the ocean where the current goes to is where all the fishermen are. And the fishermen will catch that little fish, and you know what fishermen do if they catch a fish? They eat him. So, we just want you to know, you can have lots of fun, stay over here, but stay away from the current, because for you right now, that current would be way too strong. And all of the fish, all the brother and sister fishes said, "Okay, Mommy and Daddy, that's good, we understand that." And they went back to play. But not Bobby. Bobby was a strong little fish, and he thought to himself, "You know what? My mommy and daddy don't really know me. They don't know how strong I am and that I could do something like that." And so he just let that sit in his heart for a little bit. So one day, when nobody was looking, Bobby decided that he would go over to the current and just see how strong it was. So he started getting close to the current, and he could feel the water moving. That's interesting. But he thought, but I'm so strong, it doesn't even bother me. So he got a little bit closer, and now he could feel the water was really moving a little bit. And he thought, but see, my mommy and daddy don't understand that I'm so strong. This doesn't even bother me. And then Bobby got a little bit closer, and now Bobby could feel the water tearing against him, that this really was powerful water. But even there, Bobby, in his little heart, he was just stubborn. And he said, "You know what? I'm still stronger than this water. I know I could fight against it." And then Bobby got right next to the current. And now Bobby could feel the water just washing by him and everything. And he was just standing there thinking, "You know what? Maybe my mommy and daddy are right. Maybe I should go back right now." And then he thought, he was just proud in his heart. He said, "No, I could do it. I know I could do it. Maybe I could just go in and come out real quick." And he didn't know what to do. He was thinking, "No, I gotta go home. No, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go home." And he decided to go in. And immediately the current grabbed him, and it just turned him up and up and up, and like he was doing somersaults in the water, and it took him miles and miles and miles away. And Bobby was thinking, "Why did I ever do that? Why did I listen to my mommy and daddy?" And suddenly, boom, something caught him. He was in a net, and the net started pulling him up, pulling him up. He had never been this close to the top of the water before, and it pulled him out of the water, and it was some air. He didn't even know what it was around him, and it was so bright he couldn't see. And all of a sudden, he was just flop, 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 flop in the bottom of a boat. And he thought, "Now the fishermen have me, and they're going to eat me." Well, let me tell you, it was not a fisherman. This was a good day for Bobby. It was a ranger. And a ranger is sort of like a shepherd for the sheep. I don't know what they all do out there. But anyway, he looked down at that little fish, and he said, "What in the world is this little fish doing out here? He doesn't belong in this part of the ocean." I'll bet he got too close to the current, and the current pulled him in and brought him all the way here. What a silly fish. So the ranger turned on his boat And he drove all the way back to the right part of the ocean where Bobby belonged. And he said, I hope this fish has learned his lesson. And I know that Bobby couldn't understand what the ranger was speaking, but the ranger said, I hope he learned his lesson. He doesn't get in that current again because he's just not big enough fish for that current. And he threw Bobby in. Well, where he threw Bobby in was exactly where Bobby lived. And Bobby came down into the water, and there were the brother and sister fishes and mama and papa fish. And Bobby went right over to him. And he said, oh, Mommy and Daddy, I'm so glad to be home. I'll never go away again. And they kind of looked at each other and they thought, what happened to him? But he knew in his heart now that when his Mommy and Daddy warned him that he needed to stay away from that current. And you know what? Sometimes we are warned to stay away from things that are too strong for us or too big for us, things that we're just not ready for. Little children should never drive cars because they're just not old enough for it yet. And there are some things that are, when you're little, they're too hard for you to carry. And then there are some things like sin that Jesus tells us always to stay away from. Because sometimes when we get drawn into things that are not good for us, things that are sinful, things that are bad for us, they pull us away from the people we love, and we can wind up miles and miles and miles away from them. But the good news is we have a shepherd, and our shepherd's name is Jesus. And if we look to him, he can always bring us back to the place where we need to be.